Tonight on Bridge City News, the outrage continues from federal party leaders over the brown-faced photos of Justin Trudeau. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman has an update on how his administration is tackling our city's opioid crisis. And many men gathered today to walk a mile in her shoes. BCN's Loris Alexander has the details.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Robbins.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. As you heard on BCN, David and Colette Stephan, the couple charged with failing to provide the necessaries of life for their 19-month-old son, was found not guilty by Justice Terry Claxon late yesterday afternoon. The judge did not believe the couple's son Ezekiel died of bacterial meningitis, but instead it may have been due to a lack of oxygen. Ezekiel Stephan died in March of 2012 after he stopped breathing at his family's home. All of the major party leaders' campaign plans were disrupted by news that Liberal leader Justin Trudeau dressed in black and brownface on more than one occasion as a younger man. Trudeau asked for forgiveness. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh said Trudeau's actions were hurtful, while Tory leader Andrew Scheer called Trudeau's apologies hollow.
I didn't understand how hurtful this is to people who live with discrimination every single day. I have always acknowledged that I come from a place of privilege, but I now need to acknowledge that that comes with a massive blind spot. I have dedicated my leadership and my service to Canada to try and counter intolerance and racism everywhere I can, but this has been a personally a moment where I've had to reflect on the fact that wanting to do good and wanting to do better simply isn't good enough, and you need to take responsibility for mistakes that hurt people who thought I was an ally.
It's not for me to forgive, it's for Canadians to forgive him if they choose to or not. But I have to really point out what we're seeing now is an ongoing pattern of behavior that's really going to hurt Canadians. They're going to see the Prime Minister mocking the realities that so many Canadians live with. And it is not a joke. Racism means that people are hurt physically, they're hurt mentally, they don't get the jobs that they need and want. It has hurt people in such a horrible way.
If we want to talk about a candidate who would never pass a Conservative vetting process, it's the Liberal candidate for Papineau, who has lied to Canadians, who interfered in a criminal prosecution, who broke ethics laws twice, who brought a convicted terrorist along to a state function, and now once again has lied to Canadians. That individual would never pass a Conservative vetting process. And I believe that if you're running for Prime Minister, the highest office in this land, you need to be held to a higher standard.
Former Liberal Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, who's now running as an independent, reacted to the latest scandal involving Justin Trudeau. Green Party leader Elizabeth May, meanwhile, said the images of Trudeau in brownface made her ill.
I was incredibly disappointed when I saw the comments of the leader of the Liberal Party, or the picture rather. There is no place in our country to take pictures or act in that way. As Indigenous people, as an Indigenous person myself who has faced racism and discrimination, it's entirely unacceptable.
How did I feel? I felt physically ill. I looked at the photos and I felt physically ill. I recognized that despite having had, whatever economic problems or poverty in my past, when you have white skin, you're a person of privilege.
So with everything you've seen and heard, do you think Justin Trudeau should step down as leader of the federal Liberal Party?
I think he should resign because he's making a fool out of our country. From the date he got into being Prime Minister till now, there's been multiple occasions, multiple cases where he's been caught lying to the country, caught lying to the people.
He acknowledged what he did, but his statement was he didn't know they were racist. I think that's partly true. I totally believe he knew what he was doing. Everyone knows kind of it was still the second millennium. People understand you can't just paint your face a different culture and expect no reaction. You are also a world leader, so.
No, I think that's a little bit extreme. I think he's looked at it, understood how it can offend some people, and he's taken steps to remedy that. So he's struggled to make things right with people, and people just need to realize that when we make mistakes, we can learn from them.
Liberal candidate Greg Fergus, who is seeking re-election in a Quebec riding, says he received a phone call from Justin Trudeau just before the brownface scandal broke. Fergus admits his leader's in for a rough ride as he confronts the fallout over the images making their way across Canada and the world.
There was a lot of confusion and hurt last night by the Black community, and I will say this to all of you. I don't believe that anybody has ever lived their lives without making an error or without making errors. The Prime Minister last night presented his apologies. He expressed his regrets. I think the real measure of the man, and the thing that I think that we need to be talking about, and I hope that you'll be talking about, are all the amazing things which we've done for diversity, specifically for the Black Canadian community across this country.
One of our political contributors, Brian Lilly, spent the morning with Mr. Trudeau today. Brian, can we expect more pictures or videos of brown or blackface to surface?
Well, there's lots of rumors, lots of speculation something might be coming, and even a story saying that the Liberals were expecting more to drop. But the Prime Minister was asked, can you confirm that the party is waiting for more of this? And he said, no, I can't confirm. I then turned, as that question was being answered, I turned to one of Trudeau's top aides, his communications director. He's been with him the whole time he's been Prime Minister and throughout this campaign. And I said, well, are you guys expecting anything? He said, we always hear rumors, but we don't know of anything.
Have there been any calls within the Trudeau Liberal caucus for Trudeau to resign?
Surprisingly, no. I would have expected to hear from some Liberal somewhere saying he's got to go, he's hurting us. But I think they also realize that this far into the campaign, it would be difficult to change horses.
The brownface images of Trudeau even shocked U.S. President Donald Trump.
Just as we were about to start the news conference, Donald Trump was asked about this in the Oval Office, and he said that he was hoping he wouldn't be asked, but now that he has been, he said he was surprised, but then added he was even more surprised at how many times Trudeau had done this.
One of our political reporters, Brian Lilly, joining me once again from Toronto. Thanks so much, Brian.
Thank you.
Conservative leader Andrew Scheer campaigned in Atlantic Canada for the first time today, where there are a dozen seats being targeted. Scheer brought a promise of $1.5 billion to buy new MRI and CT scanners for the provinces.
I want you, your elderly parents, your children, your loved ones, not to worry about wait times and not to worry about your bottom line. Today, medical imaging equipment across Canada is falling behind. We don't have enough equipment to meet the growing demand for potentially life-saving tests, and the wait times for important tests and treatments are too long as a result. For the amount of money Canadians pay in taxes, they deserve timely access to quality health services and the very best in modern health technology and equipment. That's why, as Prime Minister, I will invest $1.5 billion in our first term to replace aging MRI machines and CT machines and increase the total number of machines in Canada's healthcare system.
The federal election is just over a month away. Many of the local Lethbridge candidates have been door knocking, including Lethbridge Conservative MP Rachel Harder. Ms. Harder stopped by BCN recently, and we asked her what her constituents feel are the biggest issues heading into the October 21st election.
Some of the biggest things that we're hearing certainly have to do with the economy, job creation, overall security with regards to just well-being as a family, the affordability of life, the daily necessities, whether that's heating a person's home or buying groceries or paying their mortgage. Another really big issue that we're hearing when we're at the door has to do with just overall safety and security right here within our community. Certainly the supervised consumption site is a big issue. The drug crisis as a whole is a big issue. People are certainly wanting a compassionate response, but they're wanting a detox response or an abstinence-based response rather than what we currently have.
In the last year and a half, 93 drug houses have been discovered in Lethbridge. That's according to Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman. Spearman stopped by our studio recently, and he says he still has a plan to tackle our city's drug crisis.
What we have to do is shut down the supply of drugs. We have to shut down the drug houses, and we have to make sure that the main supply coming into the city is interrupted. And we need to make sure that we're dealing on the other end with the addicts, and that we're giving them a doorway, a pathway to treatment and recovery.
Mayor Spearman also discusses the need for Lethbridge to have a federal prosecutor and how that should help keep drug dealers off the streets. That interview is coming up in the second half of our show. Lethbridge police have charged a couple of men with weapons and drug offenses. Police say one of the men who was at a property near the supervised consumption site was found with a machete, a baseball bat, bear spray, and a metal bar. Authorities say the other man who was with him was in possession of methamphetamines and fentanyl. 21-year-old Ramsey Eagle Plume and 27-year-old Cameron Weaselhead face a wide range of charges, including drug possession, trafficking, and possession of an offensive weapon. Police in our city were called out to a home along Silkstone Point late yesterday afternoon about a suspicious package. Roads around the area were closed off for a couple of hours as police investigated. The bomb squad was called in, and fortunately, the package turned out not to be suspicious after all, but it still made for some very intense moments for many in the Copperwood community. Lethbridge displayed their support in an effort to combat domestic violence today. Hundreds of people attended the 9th annual YWCA Walk a Mile in Her Shoes fundraising event, including members of the Lethbridge Police Service. BCN's Loris Alexander was at Galt Gardens, where she witnessed guys putting their best foot forward.
This event is YWCA Lethbridge and District's Walk a Mile in Her Shoes fundraising event. We're here to raise money for YWCA Lethbridge's gender-based violence programs.
Participants of the walk were seen wearing bibs with the numbers 1714, which had a significant meaning behind it.
1714, the number on the bibs of the people that you can see walking today, that is the number of women that actually have been turned away when trying to access our emergency shelter. And so that's why today is so important, because we need to raise funds so that we don't have to do that. And that is a really high and scary number.
The Lethbridge College Criminal Justice Program, the Watch Program, and the Lethbridge Police Service took part to show their support.
It's very important that we participate in this and support. The YWCA does great work for the community. They're an invaluable resource, not only for the women in the community, but also for the police service as well. And for someone, myself, I've been in the domestic violence unit, and in those investigations, it's a fantastic resource that we can rely on for emergency shelter or to house women. The outreach programs that they have, it's just a fantastic group for the community to have.
It's important that as members of the community and being part of the community, that we participate in community activities that support good programs. Domestic violence is an issue that affects our community and affects communities across the province and across the country. So it's important that as a part of that community that we participate, we contribute, and we work to make the community better, and this is just one little piece that we're able to do.
Although some men struggled, all participants endured the pain of high heels, knowing they were supporting a good cause. For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
A home designed by a Lethbridge College student won a provincial award. The Emberley, designed by Lena Wiebe for Ashcroft Master Builder, earned an award from Building Industry and Land Development for a single-family home under $300,000. Wiebe designed the floor plan, while Jada Cott brought it to life through 3D animation. The design was chosen as the winner by a panel of judges from Ashcroft and was built by the company in the Gary Station subdivision. Congrats to Lena Wiebe. Very well done. Lethbridge Hurricanes fans are pumped for yet another season. The team is substantially different from last year, with many key players retiring or moving on to NHL opportunities. Ainsley O'Reilly explains the optimism surrounding the club.
Jordy Bellerive, Jake Lecision, and Nick Henry combined for 261 points last season. The trio is gone to pursue their pro careers, and meanwhile, the Lethbridge Hurricanes have a crop of rookies who are looking to fill those roles.
It's exciting. It's exciting to see who's going to step up this year and who's going to be our guys. And it's really how you move on in the league and move on past the league to see who needs to seize the opportunity when it's there and make sure that you can take it.
Excited. You know, there's obviously always a little bit of jitters for guys playing their first game at home for real when it really starts up. But yeah, guys are excited, and we're excited to play in front of our fans.
Carl Tedachuk gets the start between the pipes for the Canes' home opener against Medicine Hat. He was thrust into the postseason last year, and now he's at the top of the depth chart.
Really hard to be where I am now, and last year I just tried to improve every day, and this year it's got to be a more important year for me, so yeah, I just got to work hard.
The Lethbridge Hurricanes are starting off their season without two key pieces, Kaylin Addison and Dylan Cousins. Cousins was selected 7th overall by the Buffalo Sabres in this summer's NHL draft, while Addison is still skating with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He is expected to return shortly. For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
South of the border, at least 2 people have died as the remnants of Tropical Storm Imelda brought massive flooding into Houston and East Texas. Others were still being rescued.
The preliminary information we have is that the van was traveling westbound towards Bush Airport. As it approached the underpass, they could see that the water line was around 7 or 8 feet maybe, and the vehicle continued to go forward. It did come to a pause, and according to witnesses, for some unknown reason, he just punched it and tried to drive through it some more, which didn't make sense. They did try to go in water to see if they could pull him out to no avail. There's continuing just to coordinate check the entire bottom of it. We also have some divers out here. So we're going to be out here for a little bit, and I came to check on my guys as well. It's very traumatic. We've been going call to call all day nonstop. We still have some active water rescues going on. So it's been quite the day for us, very Harvey-like.
6 people were shot and 1 person was killed in Washington, D.C. following an overnight shooting. We have an update now from a commander with the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department.
And during the course of our investigation, we located 6 individuals in the 1300 block of Columbia Road sustained gunshot wounds. One of those individuals has been pronounced deceased. The other 5 remaining individuals have been transported to area hospitals with various gunshot wounds ranging from non-critical to critical. Thanks. So of the victims, we have 6 victims. They're all adults. We are being told at this point it appears to be 5 adult males and 1 adult female.
There are great new movies playing at the Mill this weekend. With more, here is your Movie Mill Minute.
Brittany runs a marathon. A hard-partying woman receives a startling wake-up call when a visit to the doctor reveals how unhealthy she is. Too broke for a gym and too proud to ask for help, Britt is at a loss until her neighbor Catherine pushes her to exercise. Motivated to lose weight, Britt soon takes up running to help prepare for her ultimate goal of competing in the New York City Marathon.
50,000 people from around the world are racing today. I want to run the New York City Marathon. I think that is such a good idea.
That's a bad omen.
Spider-Man, Far From Home. Our friendly neighborhood superhero decides to join his best friends, Ned, MJ, and the rest of the gang on a European vacation. However, Peter's plans to leave superheroics behind for a few weeks are suddenly scrapped when he reluctantly agrees to help Nick Fury uncover some mysterious attacks, creating havoc across the continent.
What do you want, Peter? I want to go back on my trip with the girl who I really like and tell her how I feel. MJ, I
am Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Great family movies at the Mill once again. A nice sunny day, but cooler today around the Windy City, but a beautiful weekend is shaping up. I have complete weather details coming up in just a moment. Just a few clouds today and mild. Tonight partly cloudy with a low near 3. A mixture of sun and cloud tomorrow and a high expected near 18. Sunday mainly sunny with a high of 22. A few degrees cooler under blue sky on Monday. Tuesday sunshine again with a high near 20. Wednesday we should see a high near 18. And Thursday the clouds return with a high near 17 in the forecast. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 19 degrees and an average low of 4. The highest temperature on this date was recorded in 1938 at 31 degrees, and the record low was a chilly -6 in 1995. Sunrise was at 7:14, sunset at 7:35. Let's see how tomorrow's shaping up across the country now. It should be mainly sunny at 18 degrees in Victoria, overcast at 19 for Vancouver. Just a few clouds and 17 is on tap for Calgary on Saturday. Mainly sunny and 20 for Edmonton. Clearing at 17 degrees for Regina. Slightly warmer at 19 under a partly cloudy sky in Saskatoon. Thunder showers and 18 is on tap for Winnipeg. Mostly cloudy and 27 degrees for Toronto tomorrow. It should be mainly sunny and 26 in Ottawa. Expect a high of 27 degrees in Montreal. Over the Maritimes, Fredericton, New Brunswick will be mainly sunny and 23. Halifax, Nova Scotia will be partly cloudy and 21. Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island will be mainly sunny and 17. And in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect showers and a high near 11 degrees for tomorrow. The birthplace of General Motors, Flint, Michigan, is bracing for economic impact as workers' strike against the automaker wraps up its very first week.
Well, back in '98, when I went out at AC Sparkplug on strike with Chevy Metal Fab, behind me, our motto then was one day longer. And that's what we're going to be. We're going to hold out one day longer.
GM employs around 10,000 people in Flint, Michigan. General Motors is recalling more than 107,000 small SUVs in Canada and the United States because a suspension weld could break, causing steering problems. The recall covers the 2015 through 2018 Chevrolet Trax. It is an expansion of a recall from April that covered the 2017 through 2019 model years. A video game development company in Denver, Colorado has expanded into Calgary. New World Interactive only has a handful of employees right now, but is looking at expanding and hiring more Albertans. The company's marketing and communications director, John Higgins, says his industry is exploding. He explains what it takes to remain successful in a very competitive industry.
The games industry is a rapidly growing industry with hundreds of games launching every single week. I'd say the most important thing is to kind of find a niche that you feel and to make sure that you create something which is fun, unique, and really exciting to people. Realism and immersiveness is our particular niche and has been successful for us. However, innovation is what's key in the industry, doing something new.
Catch my full interview with John explaining how the gaming industry is evolving and why they chose Calgary over Toronto to set up shop in. That's coming up after business news. Retail sales came in lower than expected at the start of the third quarter. Stats Canada says sales increased by 0.4% in July to $51.5 billion. That was the first increase in 3 months, but still below the 0.6% gain economists had expected. Sales were up 1.5% in the motor vehicle and parts sector, but building materials and garden supplies sales fell 3.2%. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 41 points today to 16,899. The Dow was down 159 points to 26,935. The Nasdaq was also down 65 to 8,117. The S&P 500 was down almost 15 points to 29.92. Oil was down 4 cents on the day to 58.09 per barrel. Natural gas was unchanged at $2.53. Gold was up 17.80 to 15.1690 per ounce, and silver was also up 20 cents to $17.99 per ounce. Wheat is at $2.08 per metric ton, barley at $197, canola is at $4.52, and corn at $274 per metric ton. Live cattle was down 45 cents to $100.13. Feeder cattle was up to $140.58, and lean hogs down 105 to 62.48. The Canadian dollar was up slightly on the day to 75.40 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the fallout from the recently released Justin Trudeau brown-face pictures continues. Former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould says the Liberal caucus should hold Trudeau accountable, and Green Party leader Elizabeth May says the images made her ill. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman stopped by BCN recently with an update on our city's drug crisis and efforts being made to combat the problem. That interview is on deck. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News Community Calendar. The Lethbridge Public Library is proud to join communities across the country in a national celebration of literacy, storytelling, and the literary arts by bringing the Word on the Street Festival on September 21st, beginning at 11 a.m. at the Lethbridge Public Library main branch. Enjoy free workshops and demonstrations, street performers, live music, and more. For more information, visit thewordonthestreet.ca/Lethbridge. The 30th Annual Giant Pumpkin Festival and Auction in support of the Children's Wish Foundation is taking place Saturday, September 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Greenhaven Garden Center. Come out and enjoy face painting, wagon rides, a petting zoo, plus a live and silent auction, and much more. All proceeds benefit the Children's Wish Foundation in Southern Alberta. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
The city of Lethbridge continues to grow and do well economically. Joining me now in studio to chat about that and other big topics here in the city is Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman. Welcome back to BCN, Mayor.
I'm happy to be here, Hal. It was great news to hear this week from the Conference Board of Canada. In the study of select middle-sized cities in Canada, Lethbridge came out #1 in economic growth, and I was delighted to hear that our economy remains strong.
We're humming along, and is that because we're more diversified than other Alberta cities that really rely on the energy sector?
It is exactly that, and I think a lot of people don't understand the stress that many Alberta cities have gone through, those that are relying on shipments of oil and the price of natural gas that has been really depressed for some time. our diversified economy, which really is food-based, agricultural processing, value-added agricultural products, has been steady and strong in spite of some international challenges.
Yeah, the challenges with China, and they don't want a lot of the Canadian canola making their way there. But you say that's actually a good thing for our city?
Yeah, what that means is instead of exporting canola, we're processing it here. And that means adding value and creating employment here in Lethbridge.
What's the latest with Cavendish? $350 million expansion.
Yeah, it's actually that it's gone a little more expensive than they had anticipated, and the plant will open on October the 3rd, the official opening, and the final cost of phase 1 is $430 million.
Oh, why the cost overrun?
Well, basically there have been issues in some cases with imported steel tariffs and things like that. But generally the cost of new technology, it's a state-of-the-art plant.
What about some of the expansions, the other expansions here in Lethbridge, including the new Cor Van Ray YMCA, the bus shelter, you know, the new Science Commons building at the U of L? Can we expect more of this here as the city grows?
Well, the next few projects that would improve the lives of the citizens of Lethbridge are a convention center and a performing arts center. And those projects would have an impact on taxation. What we want to do is duplicate the success that we've had with our ATB Center and with our downtown bus terminal and with the Yates renovation. What we want to do is attract federal and provincial investment. So our downtown bus terminal, which was close to 20 million, the City of Lethbridge contribution was about 25%, so a little over 5 million, so 25 cents on the dollar. And the remainder coming from the provincial and federal governments. Similarly with the Yates, our investment was about 1/3 of the total capital costs. So similarly, we want to get the federal and provincial government to support us. Another significant project that would improve the lives of residents of Lethbridge and area is investment in our airport, and we've been promoting that. So we want to qualify for federal funding to upgrade our airport terminal and our runways, and we want to make sure that if there are opportunities for provincial participation on things like a convention center or a performing arts center, that we attract those funds as well. We want to make sure that the funds don't all go to Calgary and Edmonton.
Now, the province mentioned recently $140 million over 4 years to help deal with the opioid crisis. How much of that can we expect to see here in Lethbridge? Will they go towards intox, detox, and counseling?
Well, what they're doing is talking about funding treatment and recovery beds, and they announced a specific number, which is 4,000. I would say on a population basis, anything below 200 beds for Lethbridge should be considered a failure. On a per capita impact basis, we have one of the most significant drug issues in the province, and we probably need something in the range of 300 to 400 treatment beds. So we'll be advocating to make sure that money doesn't all go into the big cities. And what we've been saying time after time is we need the same services that are already available in Calgary and Edmonton. We need to make sure that we have sufficient detox, sufficient intox. We need to make sure we have supported housing for people who have severe mental health and addiction issues. And Lethbridge needs to have the same level of service and the same quality of service as the big cities.
Some residents I've spoken to as well, Mayor, said they're really concerned about the increase in crime, that a lot of the drug addicts, the junkies are out there. You know, they don't have a lot of money, so they're stealing bikes, they're the bike chop shops, and they have to try and get their fix somehow, and then they go to Arches or the safe consumption side at Arches to get, you know, the clean needles and inject the opioids, you know, fentanyl, whatever the case. So how do you deal with that? How do you respond with that, especially now that we don't have a permanent police chief in place?
Well, we have a police force in place, and we have an interim police chief, so we haven't abandoned the ship. We acknowledge that residents are concerned about crime, and we acknowledge that residents are very concerned about illicit drug use. So we've taken a number of steps, but certainly we began acting back in 2014 when Premier Prentice was the Premier, and we said we need detox, intox, and supported housing. We've been advocating for 5 years for those services. We saw drug use and crime increasing at that stage, and basically both of those doubled every year. It doubled in 2015, it doubled in 2016, doubled again in 2017. In 2017, we had Arches. They applied for a supervised consumption site, recognizing that we already had applications for intox, detox, and supported housing submitted. And as it happened, the federal government gave the green light to have a supervised consumption site in Lethbridge based on the data. The provincial government chose to fund it, but chose not to fund detox, intox, and supported housing.
So it was only part of the solution, right?
Only part of the solution. Now people are saying, well, the supervised consumption site caused the problem. In fact, the drugs were here. We saw the trend of doubling all the time, both in drug use and in crime. Petty crime has accelerated. What's happened is the cost of alcohol, $20 to buy a bottle. The cost of a meth hit, $5.
Right.
You know, alcohol wears off after an hour or two. Meth lasts for 13 hours.
Wow.
You know, so it's a huge challenge that we have. The fact that the issue was ignored for 4 years is a big problem because it's spiraled out of control. The supervised consumption site has done a number of things that are positive. The first one is clean needle distribution, which peaked in 2017 at 35,000 needles per month, clean needles distributed to the community, and now is averaging 7,000 to 8,000 a month since the supervised consumption site opened.
How is it, though, that it's one of the most widely used in all of North America, considering we're only 100,000 people here?
Because we have a massive drug problem and severe social issues.
A lot of people are going back, you know, 10, 12 times maybe a day?
No, the root causes are homelessness and poverty, unemployment. We have significant issues with youth. So about half the users are young people. That we have to turn that around before they completely destroy their lives. And so we have the supervised consumption site has put us in touch with 1,300 people who we didn't have a connection to before. The fact that those people have a connection to the health system now through the supervised consumption site is a good thing. And even though it's the most heavily used facility in North America, them having trust in the supervised consumption site is one step on the way to treatment and recovery. So we know who they are. And it's a regional service. No doubt there's people coming in. What I am very concerned about is the people that are dying, because they're the people that are afraid to use the supervised consumption site because of the stigma. They're families that I know. When I came here in 1981, I know there's people who are dying who my children affiliated with when they were growing up. I know prominent people in the community whose sons and daughters have died of overdoses. These are not the people who you think are the drug users. I've had mothers come into my office and tell me they don't know if their children, you know, in their 20s and 30s will be home for their birthday.
That
they
is
don't
tragic, yeah.
You know, they think that their child might be the next one to die.
How about the drug houses in town?
Yeah.
What are we doing to get after
All right.
those?
So we had a presentation from our police chief who said arresting a drug dealer is different than shutting down a drug house. And so there is an organization called Safe Communities and Neighborhoods. The problem is that service is only available from Calgary and Edmonton. So they have to come down here and monitor a drug house. We had notified, we're building a business case. We met with the Solicitor General yesterday, and we said, we have reported 93 drug houses in the city of Lethbridge in the last year and a half.
Wow.
We've shut down one. There have been 27 drug houses identified so far in 2019. We need a permanent scan office in the city of Lethbridge. You'd be busier here than you are in Calgary. It's more important to have a permanent drug scan office in Lethbridge. We need to stop the supply of drugs. We need to shut down drug houses, ban their use for at least 6 months, and put severe restrictions on the use of those homes to the owners.
Now, City Council gave the go-ahead for Streets Alive mission to rezone property for transitional housing and residential area. Neighbors are concerned about properties being devalued. If that does happen, will the city offer any compensation? What's the plan moving forward?
Well, the plan moving forward is to see what happens. No neighborhood can be excluded from hosting a safe house for recovery. And What we've seen in the past is that Streets Alive has a strong record in this community of offering supported housing to recovering addicts. Most people don't know where those houses are, and their programs have been successful. So when you tell people that a supported house is coming into their neighborhood, there's a lot of fear. And we dealt with that fear on Monday night. People probably still don't believe it will have a minimal impact, but it will go forward. And we'll find that that if they maintain their record of success, and Streets Alive is very motivated to make sure this causes as few problems as possible, they will run this very tightly. And in the end, we hope that people will say a year or two from now, it wasn't as bad as I thought. In Edmonton, there was a facility called Ambrose Place that provided supported housing to people with severe mental health issues. There was a 2-year delay. There was a lawsuit. That lawsuit was defeated. Ambrose Place went ahead, and now 2 years later, the neighborhood is saying, it's not as bad as we thought.
Right.
You know, it's not an issue. In fact, you can build another one.
How well is reconciliation coming along? I know we have Oki now, which is the Blackfoot word for what? Welcome?
Yes.
And you're learning some other Blackfoot terms as well?
Yeah. Oki.
Oki.
Sanatapi.
Sanatapi. What is that?
That means, how are you?
How are you? Okay, I like that. What else you got?
Well, you're supposed to respond.
Okay.
Sakoki.
Dakoki?
Sakoki.
Oh, Sakoki.
That means good.
Oh, good. Oh, there you go. Sakoki. Yeah. I love that. That's great. That's awesome.
So
is reconciliation coming along?
Well, this is Reconciliation Week, and of course we have a number of events, in fact events every day to celebrate reconciliation. So we've had, this is the third time we've celebrated Reconciliation Week, and what we're trying to do is bring the community together. We're trying to overcome racism, and we want to promote understanding and respect. We want to live our city motto, which is Gateway to Opportunity, and that's Gateway to Opportunity for all who live here. When refugees come here, they see this as a wonderful place. We would like our Indigenous people to see our city as a wonderful place where they have equal opportunity to employment, equal opportunity to housing, and equal opportunity for their young people to survive and participate, a bright future for all. So this past week at our City Council meeting, I was very proud of our City Council when they unanimously endorsed adoption of the word Oki as the official greeting for the city of Lethbridge.
The city's looking for a new police chief since Rob Davis went to Brantford. Scott Woods is the interim chief. How's that process coming along?
It's just beginning.
Okay.
So the police commission is tasked with hiring a new chief. They're going to have a very planned out hiring process.
What are you looking for though in a new police chief? What kind of qualities?
Well, I think we want somebody who's tough on crime.
Right.
That would be one of our priorities given our current situation. Someone who has a thorough and solid understanding of drug addiction. And, you know, our police have said, you know, we can't arrest our way out of this drug issue. When you arrest the drug users themselves, the people on the street, they just go to court and they're out again. Even some of the low-level traffickers they're brought to court and they're out again and back in operation. What we have to do is shut down the supply of drugs. We have to shut down the drug houses, and we have to make sure that the main supply coming into the city is interrupted. And we need to make sure that we're dealing on the other end with the addicts, and that we're giving them a doorway, a pathway to treatment and recovery.
Mayor Chris Spearman, thanks again for joining me in studio today.
It's always a pleasure, and we're dealing with very complex issues in the city of Lethbridge, but I think we're working with the right people, and we have detailed solutions that we're working on, strategies, working with the provincial government to make sure that we can be successful and Lethbridge can be a safe and clean city that encourages investment now and into the future.
Sounds great. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
A
A Denver-based video game developer made a decision earlier this year to open up a brand new studio in Calgary, creating some jobs and help to stimulate the economy at the same time. We want to find out what made Calgary so attractive and also learn more about the video game development business. Joining me now is John Higgins, Marketing and Communications Director with New World Interactive, the award-winning developer of the multi-million selling Insurgency video game franchise. I can see it on your t-shirt there. John, welcome to BCN.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Now, I know you guys were also considering Toronto, so tell me, what made you choose Calgary over the GTA?
So part of our move involved relocating staff from across the world. So for us, it was very important our team had a really great quality of life. Calgary has some great amenities, really highly accessible. And compared to Toronto or Vancouver, which we also looked at, we feel it has a much better cost of living and living standards for our employees who are moving here and also our future employees. We were very close to making a deal with Toronto Global. However, when we came to Calgary, we were blown away by the reception that we got. There's a real entrepreneurial spirit within the business community here, and we met some great people who really embraced our arrivals. So we think it's a really fantastic opportunity to be at the forefront of building a gaming cluster here in Calgary, as opposed to joining a pre-existing gaming industry.
There was also the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund and the Alberta government's tax credit for companies in the interactive digital media business were key factors. Have you already received some of the grants, or is that still forthcoming?
So it's important to say that we haven't yet received any of these grants and incentives. They certainly were a major part of our decision to look at Calgary in setting up our business. Our application for OSIF is currently in review, and we're hoping we'll get a favourable decision by sort of early fall. We're hoping to hear back from them. As far as the digital media tax credits, the applications for those are on hold due to a review by the incoming provincial administration. So that incentive has unfortunately been delayed. We're optimistic that the new administration will reinstate the program. They'll see the benefits that it can bring, and we're confident that they'll reinstate the program shortly. Both of these were really significant factors for us to choose Calgary, and it will be a huge benefit for us to have that additional grants and support from the government.
So John, how many employees do you have working in Calgary right now, and how many are you hoping to expand with in the future?
So we're relatively new here. We've only just opened up the studio. We've got 5 people here with me in the office, and our team from around the world will be continuing to immigrate to Calgary over the coming 3 to 4 months. And we're also hiring new people here locally in Calgary. We anticipate to grow to about 25 people here in the studio by the end of the year. And we also envision adding further people in 2020 and beyond, potentially scaling up to the size of 40, 50, maybe 60 people. However, a lot of that does depend on provincial incentives and funding, which will help us offset those recruitment costs and project planning.
My son actually graduated from the video game development program at Niagara College, an honor student, 3-year program, a couple of years ago, and he's had a real hard time getting a job in the gaming industry because a lot of game developers, gaming studios, they always want somebody with experience, 3 to 5 years of experience. So let me ask you something, John. Will there be opportunities for people like my son who have recently graduated or will be graduating?
Absolutely. Initially, with the first few key Pillarstone hires, we are looking for people who've got prior industry background, just so we can get the company set up and running with the core staff in place. But over the future, we do plan to create some more junior level, entry level positions, as well as potentially look at internships. We're also very keen to work with the educational institutions here and around Calgary to ensure that the graduates that are coming out of these programs have the correct skills and are able to be involved with these newly created jobs here in the city.
Now, if your company ends up being successful in Calgary, John, would this potentially attract more video developer companies to Alberta?
Absolutely. We believe there's so much potential here, and with the right government and provincial support, we truly believe that Calgary can become this new emerging gaming hub within Canada. Between ourselves and Finnair Games, which are a startup incubator, we're planning to support up to 50 new gaming projects and teams over the next 3 to 4 years. And we kind of view ourselves as anchor tenants, providing the draw for other developers and companies that service the industry to be drawn and move into Calgary.
Now, you specialize in first-person shooter games with 3 games so far on the PC market, and I understand that the Canadian team will be working on launching these games into the console market?
Absolutely. Calgary is going to be our main development studio. We've also got another smaller office in Denver, Colorado, where we're headquartered. And the team here will be working on post-release support for the PC version of our games, which are already on the market, as well as the console version, which we're really excited to be expanding to that new market for the very first time. And also the team here that we're building in Calgary will also be working on some as yet unannounced future projects. This is really going to be our core development studio for the foreseeable future.
So what's the key to success then, John, with first-person shooter games like Insurgency Sandstorm or Day of Infamy? Is it basically the ones that are the most realistic that win out?
Not necessarily. The games industry is a rapidly growing industry with hundreds of games launching every single week. I'd say the most important thing is to kind of find a niche that you fill and to make sure that you create something which is fun, unique, and really exciting to people. Realism and immersiveness is our particular niche and has been successful for us. However, innovation is what's key in the industry, doing something new. You can look at some of the most successful games out there right now. Fortnite, for example, that's not a realistic game, but it's fun. So you don't necessarily need to be the most realistic game. You just need to create something which is unique, which is new, which is fun, and which really captures people's imagination and their attention.
So how do you respond to parents that have concerns about games being too graphic or too violent? Should there be some sort of boundaries there in place?
I mean, it's a very legitimate concern that parents have. Our games are very much mature and they are not intended for children. We clearly market them as such. They're labeled with all the necessary country and region specific age ratings. We don't advertise towards children. However, parents should definitely be very proactive in moderating what their children have access to and are able to play. They need to be informed about the purchases that they are making for their children and the type of content that those games can depict. Our game depicts war in a very realistic setting. Frankly, it's quite brutal and unforgiving, and we certainly in no way glorify war or violence. Our game is intended for a mature audience, and for those people, it's a really fantastic experience, but it's certainly not intended towards children, or our games in particular are not.
Now, a lot of people, including my son, they love playing with their friends online. Now, is there a benefit in learning how to work together effectively if you're playing with somebody in London, England, maybe somebody in Denver, Colorado, and you're based in Calgary or Lethbridge here?
Absolutely. Teamwork and communication are really key skills, especially in our game, which is very teamwork oriented. And they're also really important life skills. You need to be able to effectively communicate and work with other people, be it in the workforce or when you're playing a game. And games have this huge ability now to connect people from all over the world, all different kind of backgrounds. As you said, you could be playing with someone from England, someone from India, someone from the US, and it's really that global reach that allows people to connect in ways that they never would have been able to do historically.
Now, you said a lot of your games are for more of the mature crowd. What is the age range that typically play these kinds of video games? And are the majority of the users male?
So for our game in particular, we normally see the age range of about 18 to 34. These are mostly male, but over the recent years, the sort of past 5 or so years, we've seen a big increase in the number of female gamers, not only within our games, but across the broader games industry. It's always very hard to get accurate demographics of our users due to various data protection rules and regulations, how much we can actually collect. Most of our information comes from the platform providers, be it Steam or Sony or Microsoft, as those are people who the players create accounts with and give them the the information on their age, their gender, their location, as opposed to us collecting that directly.
So when I play games, a lot of times with consoles, but today a lot of people love their phones. They love playing games on the phones. How much of a market, how much of an increase are you seeing when it comes to smartphones?
The gaming market is absolutely huge. It went through this sort of massive meteoric rise as phones became more accessible. They came down in cost, the hardware improved. Mobile gaming has really overtaken. And people like being able to game on the move. They don't necessarily want to have a really expensive high-end PC or have to be tied to their living room setup. They want to be able to game when they're commuting, when they're at the playground, and whenever they've got 5 minutes of downtime. And I think over the next few years, we're really going to see the emergence of sort of true mobile gaming. A lot of mobile gaming historically has been sort of your small app-type games, lots of quizzes and sort of quest-type games. But with the way that technology is going and the emergence of cloud gaming services, as the hardware becomes more accessible, I think we'll see the emergence of more true gaming experiences, your likes of first-person shooters. You can see this already happening with Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG Mobile. A lot of the big AAA studios are moving into that area, and I only see it growing.
So where's the biggest overhead for your company that you see when it comes to video game development?
So for us, technology is always improving at a rapidly growing rate. The key thing is to stay at the cutting edge of that technology, because the games that we're developing, they are not going to be hitting the market now. We need to be thinking multiple steps ahead. The games that we're putting into the early concept and prototyping stages now, they won't be out for 3, 4, or 5 years. So you really need to be thinking ahead.
That's interesting how you were saying. Interesting, John, how you were saying you're going after the demographic 18 to 34. How about for those of us who are a little bit older, maybe the Generation Xers going after the mature crowd, coming up with some mobile Galaga games, Space Invaders, Asteroids, Pac-Man, a lot of the games of the 80s that a lot of us Gen Xers grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this already happening. The games industry tends to go in sort of cycles, and you can see fairly recently there's been a lot of reboots and remakes of classic sort of 90s games, maybe not the games from the 70s and the 80s, but nowadays there's the Spyro games have had a reboot, Crash Bandicoot has had a reboot, and we're getting to that phase where for people who grew up in the 90s playing games, they're now starting to have their own kids, their own families. They want to share that experience that they grew up with their own children. And so I think you will see a lot of remakes of classic games coming up in the future.
So looking down the road, where do you see the video game business heading, let's say, in the next 10 to 15 years?
Well, the video games industry, it recently overtook both films and music combined as the largest entertainment industry. I only see this continuing to grow. Hardware prices are coming down and down and down. Games are becoming more accessible, playable on more devices. I think we'll see mobile gaming, as you alluded to earlier, growing a lot more, as well as cloud-based gaming is certainly something that people are looking forward to in the future. VR is another very exciting area, both virtual reality and mixed/augmented reality. Those, I think, are a little bit further off before they will become mainstream. There's certainly emerging technologies. I think we'll see the growth of China and Asia, which we've seen over the last few years, will only continue to grow. And I think we'll also see new major gaming markets emerge as more and more communities around the world get higher speed internet, better access to technology. I think right now it's only the start of the games industry's rapid growth. And for Calgary to form an industry here, it's going to be a really great opportunity for the city, but also the people here, because it's not showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. It'll just continue to grow.
John Higgins, Marketing and Communications Director with New World Interactive. Thanks a lot for joining me today from Calgary.
Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate it.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great night.